You can keep a potato firm, fresh, and perfectly edible for an entire year. No sprouting, no shriveling, no soft rotten spots leaking through the bag, no green skin you have to cut away and throw in the bin. And you can do it without a root cellar, without expensive equipment, without a big garden or a basement, or anything you don't already have room for. Today, I'm going to show you exactly why potatoes spoil and exactly what to do instead. These are the things commercial storage experts know, and almost nobody tells home gardeners. By the end, you'll understand your potatoes better than most people who've been growing them for 20 years. Quick question before we get into it, and I read every single comment on these, so drop yours below. Have you ever gone to grab your stored potatoes and found them soft, sprouted, wrinkled, or rotten before you got the chance to cook them? Or is storing your own food something you're only just getting into now? Just tell me, been there or first timer. I want to know who I'm talking to. Okay, let's get into the first secret, and it changes how you see everything else. Secret 1. Your potatoes are alive right now, and the faster they breathe, the sooner they die. Most people treat a potato like a rock, something dead, something inert that just sits in a bag waiting to be cooked. That's the mistake, and it's the root of almost every storage failure there is. A potato is a living organ. Even weeks after you've pulled it out of the ground, it is still breathing. Right now, in your kitchen, your potatoes are taking in oxygen and releasing carbon dioxide. They're giving off water vapor. They're even generating a tiny bit of heat. They are alive and working every second, whether you're paying attention or not. And here's the part that decides how long they last. Every degree warmer makes them breathe faster. The faster they breathe, the quicker they burn through the energy stored inside them. And the moment that stored energy runs low, the potato starts to break down. Let me put a number on it so it lands. A potato stored at around 15 degrees Celsius, that's 59 Fahrenheit, ages several times faster than the exact same potato stored at 5 degrees, which is about 41 Fahrenheit. Same potato, same everything. The only difference is temperature, and one of them lives a fraction of the life of the other. Think of it like a battery slowly draining. Warmth turns the drain up. Cool slows it down. Store your potatoes warm and you are running the battery flat in a matter of weeks. Store them cool and steady and that same battery can last the better part of a year. So the very first thing that separates a year of good potatoes from a pile of soft mush by Christmas is simple. Cool and stable. Not cold, not warm, cool. Somewhere around that 5 to 7 degree range, in the dark, with steady air. That single choice does more heavy lifting than any container you could buy. Now here's what almost nobody tells you. Getting the temperature right is only half the job, because a lot of the damage that ruins your potatoes actually happened before you ever put them into storage. Which brings us to the next one. Secret 2. The bruise you can't see is the rot you'll get in 3 months. This one surprises people every time, and once you know it, you can't unknow it. Most storage rot doesn't start in storage, it starts at harvest. When you're digging potatoes, they knock against the fork, they tumble into a bucket, they drop onto the path. And a potato that falls just 15 to 20 centimeters, that's 6 to 8 inches, onto a hard surface can bruise on the inside without a single mark showing on the outside. You wouldn't know. It looks perfect. You'd store it happily next to all the others. But under that flawless skin, cells have been crushed, and for weeks nothing shows. Then, a month or 2 into storage, those damaged cells become the perfect doorway. Bacteria walk in, fungi move in, and what started as an invisible bump at harvest becomes a soft, spreading rot in the middle of your carefully stored crop. So the biggest storage mistake most gardeners make happens before storage even begins. It happens at the moment you think the hard work is over. The fix costs nothing. Handle your potatoes like eggs. Dig gently. Set them down. Don't drop them. Carry them in shallow layers, not deep buckets where the ones on the bottom take all the weight. Resist the urge to knock the soil off by banging them together. Gentle hands at harvest buy you months of good storage later. Rough hands plant a time bomb you won't see go off until it's too late to save what's around it. And that leads perfectly into the next secret, because there's a way to actively repair the small damage that does happen. Skip it, and you're throwing away months of potential shelf life without even realizing it. Secret 3. Potatoes heal themselves, but only if you give them the chance first. Here's something commercial growers do religiously and home gardeners almost never do. It's called curing, and it's the difference between potatoes that last weeks and potatoes that last most of a year. When potatoes come out of the ground, they're covered in tiny nicks, scratches, and thin, fragile skin. Every one of those is an open wound. Store them straight away, and every scratch is an invitation for rot. But give a freshly dug potato the right conditions for a short window, and something genuinely amazing happens. The potato grows its own protection. For about 10 to 14 days, you hold them somewhere warm and humid, not hot, warm. Somewhere out of direct sun, with decent moisture in the air and gentle airflow. During those 2 weeks, the potato forms a corky protective layer over every little cut and scrape. It is, quite literally, growing its own bandage, sealing itself, toughening its skin so nothing can get in once real storage begins. More sealed wounds equals fewer entry points. Fewer entry points equals less rot. Less rot equals a crop that survives the winter instead of collapsing in the middle of it. Most home gardeners never do this. They dig, they bag, they store, and they quietly cut their potatoes' storage life by months without ever knowing that a simple 2-week pause would have doubled it. So the order matters. Harvest gently, then cure for those 10 to 14 days in warm, humid, shaded air. Only then do you move them into cool, dark, long-term storage. Do those 3 steps in that order, and you've already beaten most people who've been storing potatoes their whole lives. Quick word before the next secret. If you're finding this useful, do me one small favor. Hit that like button and subscribe. This channel is built for people who want to actually understand their food, not just follow a hack and hope. Every video digs into the real reasons things work, so you can grow and store with confidence instead of crossing your fingers every season. So tap subscribe and let's keep going, because the next one is the mistake almost everyone makes with their fridge. Secret 4. Your fridge is quietly ruining your potatoes, and they never forget it. This is one of the strangest facts about potatoes, and it goes against what most people assume. We all think colder means longer, so the fridge feels like the safe bet, right? Cold, dark, out of the way, what could go wrong? Quite a lot, actually. And the wild part is the potato remembers. When you store a potato below about 7 degrees Celsius, that's 45 Fahrenheit, something called cold-induced sweetening kicks in. The potato panics. To protect itself from the cold, it converts its starch into sugars as a survival move against freezing. It's the potato trying not to die. Now here's the strange bit. Even if you take that potato back out and warm it up again, those sugars don't just disappear. The change sticks. The potato has effectively remembered the temperature it was stored at. And that memory shows up on your plate. Potatoes that got too cold will brown much faster when you fry them. They'll taste noticeably sweeter in a way that's usually off-putting in a potato. And they produce more acrylamide during frying, which is a compound you get when starchy foods are cooked at high heat. Picture the simple test. Take 2 identical potatoes. Store one in the fridge and one properly, somewhere cool but not cold. Then fry them side by side. The refrigerated one comes out dramatically darker, almost like it's burning, while the other one crisps up golden. Same potato variety, same pan. The only difference is that one of them spent time too cold and never forgot it. So, the lesson is clear. Colder is not automatically better. Push a potato below that 7-degree line and you don't extend its life, you permanently change its chemistry. Cool storage, yes. Cold fridge storage, no. Aim for that cool, stable, slightly about fridge zone, and your potatoes keep their flavor and their texture all the way through. Now, temperature is huge, but there's a second invisible force that's damaging your potatoes long before you can see any sign of it at all. Secret 5. By the time a potato turns green, the damage started days ago. Everyone knows green potatoes are bad. You see the green, you cut it off or throw it out. Fair enough. But most people think the green itself is the problem. It isn't. The green is just the warning light on the dashboard. The real trouble started long before that light ever came on. That green color is chlorophyll, and chlorophyll only shows up because the potato has been getting light. What people don't realize is that by the time you can actually see green, light exposure has already been triggering changes inside that potato for days. Before any green appears, light has already switched on chlorophyll production, kicked up the potato's glycoalkaloid levels, which affect taste and quality, and started shifting the hormones that control sprouting. All of that is happening quietly, out of sight, while the potato still looks completely fine. So darkness isn't just about keeping potatoes from going green on the surface. Darkness protects the potato's entire internal chemistry. It keeps the whole system calm and dormant. This is why a clear bag on the counter or a spot near the window is quietly costing you. Even indoor light, even a little, is enough to start the chain reaction. Total darkness is one of the cheapest, easiest wins you have. A cardboard box, a thick paper sack inside a cupboard, a covered crate in a dark corner, anything that blocks light completely. Get your potatoes into real darkness and you've shut down a whole category of spoilage before it can even begin. Here's a good moment to check in, because we're halfway through, and the next secrets are where most people's storage actually breaks down. So tell me in the comments, where are you storing your potatoes right now? Cupboard, garage, fridge, garden shed? Drop it below, because the spot you're using might be the exact thing working against you, and I read them all. Now let's talk about the one people get most wrong, and it's a genuine balancing act. Secret 6. Humidity is a tightrope. Too dry and they shrivel. Too wet and they rot. Almost every potato storage tip out there stops at keep them cool. And cool matters, we've covered that. But commercial storage managers obsess over something most home gardeners never even think about: humidity. And it's a balancing act because you can get it wrong in 2 completely opposite directions. Go too dry and your potatoes lose water through their skin. They go wrinkled, soft, light in the hand. That firm, heavy potato you stored slowly turns into a shrunken, rubbery version of itself. That's not rot, that's simply moisture escaping into dry air. To stop that, commercial storage keeps humidity high, around 90 to 95% relative humidity. That much moisture in the air keeps the potato plump, firm and full of water, exactly the way it went in. But now go too far the other way, and you've got the opposite disaster. If moisture actually condenses on the potatoes, if you get water beading on the skin from poor airflow or from temperatures swinging up and down, then fungi and bacteria have everything they need. Wet skin is a runway for disease, and it spreads fast. So the target is a very specific thing, and once you understand it, it changes how you set up your storage. You want humid air, but dry potatoes, moist surroundings, but never wet tubers. How do you actually hit that at home? Airflow. You want your potatoes in something that breathes, not a sealed plastic bag that traps moisture against the skin, and not an open basket in bone-dry air either. Think a slatted crate, a ventilated box, a Hessian sack, a paper bag with the top rolled loosely rather than sealed. Something that lets damp air move gently around the potatoes without letting water pool on them. And keep the temperature steady, because it's those temperature swings that cause condensation in the first place. Get the humidity right, and your potatoes stay firm and heavy for months. Get it wrong in either direction, and you either dry them out or drown them. There's no coasting on this one. And speaking of things that spread fast, there's one more that can take out your whole crop from a single potato you didn't notice.
Secret 7. One rotten potato isn't the problem, it's the gas it's breathing out onto the others. Everyone knows the rule. Find a rotten potato, take it out. Simple. But almost nobody knows why it matters so much. And the why is what turns one bad potato into a disaster. A rotting potato doesn't just sit there being rotten. It's actively releasing things into the air around it. Moisture, microorganisms, gases, and all of that pours out into the little pocket of air surrounding its neighbors. So, the potatoes right next to it get stressed. The humidity spikes in that local pocket, moving from that healthy zone into the danger zone, where water starts condensing. Disease-causing organisms drift onto the potatoes touching it, and the rot doesn't just stay put, it reaches out.
One rotten potato you didn't spot can dramatically shorten the life of dozens of healthy ones around it. It's a chain reaction, and it runs silently in the middle of your pile while everything on the outside still looks fine. This is why the way you store matters just as much as where. Don't pack potatoes in a deep, dense heap where you can't see the middle and air can't move through it. Store them in shallower layers or in a way that lets you actually check them, and check them. Once a week, once every couple of weeks, have a look and a gentle feel. The moment you find a soft or leaking one, pull it out immediately and check the ones that were touching it too. Finding one bad potato early and removing it might feel like a tiny thing. It's actually you stopping a fire before it spreads. That 2-minute check protects everything else you worked all season to grow. Now, even with perfect conditions, there's a clock ticking inside every potato that no storage setup can fully stop. Let's talk about it. Secret 8. Sprouting isn't about warmth, it's a clock the potato winds itself. Here's a belief that trips a lot of people up. They think potatoes sprout because it got warm. Warmth is part of it, sure, but it's nowhere near the whole story. Every potato has a biological clock ticking inside it from the day it's harvested. Dormancy, that resting phase where the potato just sits quietly, doesn't last forever. It ends because of chemistry happening inside the tuber itself. Over time, the potato starts producing more of certain plant hormones, like gibberellins, which push it toward growth. At the same time, the natural sprout inhibitors it started with slowly fade away. So you've got the grow signal rising and the stay asleep signal falling. And at a certain point, the balance tips and the potato wakes up.
which means sprouting is not simply caused by warmth, it's an internal timer. Even under genuinely perfect storage conditions, cool and dark and humid and everything right, every potato eventually decides on its own schedule that it's time to grow again. You can't switch the clock off, but you can slow it way down. This is exactly what those big commercial storage facilities do. They control temperature and humidity so tightly that the whole process crawls. And in some cases, they use approved sprout control treatments on top of that. At home, your tools are simpler, but they work in the same direction. Cool, stable temperatures slow the hormonal clock. Darkness keeps those sprouting hormones from getting an early nudge. Remember the light chain reaction from earlier. Good handling and curing keep the potato calm and unstressed. Every one of those things doesn't stop the clock, it just stretches the time before it goes off. So don't be alarmed that potatoes eventually sprout. That's biology, not failure. Your job is simply to push that moment as far into the future as you possibly can. And the better your conditions, the more of the year you get before the clock finally rings. But there's one factor that beats every storage trick combined, and it's decided before you even plant. Secret 9. The potato you chose to grow matters more than the container you store it in. A lot of people assume storage life comes down entirely to conditions. Get the temperature and the darkness and the humidity right, and any potato will last. Not true. Genetics matter enormously. Some potatoes are simply built to keep, and some are built to be eaten young. And no amount of perfect storage will turn a poor keeper into a good one. Some varieties naturally stay dormant for roughly twice as long as others, purely because of genetic differences in their sprouting hormones. That's not something you can control after the fact. It's baked in from the start. So if long storage is your goal, choose accordingly. On the excellent keeper side, you've got varieties like Russet Burbank, Kennebec, Yukon Gem, and Elba. These are the ones bred and known to hold firm for the long haul. They go dormant and they stay that way.
On the poor keeper side, you've got varieties like Red Norland, Irish Cobbler, and a lot of those early new potatoes. These are wonderful potatoes. They're just not built to sit in storage for months. They're built to be dug and eaten fresh, and they'll sprout and soften far sooner no matter what you do. So here's the takeaway that saves you the most heartbreak. Growing the right variety matters more than buying a fancy storage container. You can do everything right and still lose an early variety by autumn simply because it was never designed to last. Or you can grow a proven keeper, store it decently, and eat homegrown potatoes deep into next year. If you're planning your next crop specifically to store it, pick a long keeper on purpose. That single decision made before you even plant does more for your winter supply than almost anything you do after harvest. Now let me show you the oldest trick of all, because it turns out our ancestors already solved this. Secret 10. The oldest storage secret wasn't a cellar, it was the ground itself. Long before anyone had a root cellar, farming communities were already keeping potatoes fresh right through winter. And the way they did it is genuinely clever, and you can still borrow the idea today. They stored potatoes underground in what were called clamps or pits. They dig into the earth and layer the potatoes with straw, dry soil, and sometimes sand. Then they'd cover the whole thing over. Why did it work so well? Because the earth is one of the best temperature buffers there is. Underground, temperatures change very, very slowly. While the air above ground swings from a frosty night to a mild afternoon and back again, the soil, a foot or two down, barely moves. It stays steady.
And steady is exactly what potatoes crave. The ground protected them from freezing solid in the depth of winter, and it protected them from overheating during any warm spells. It gave them that cool, stable, dark, slightly humid environment. The exact conditions we've been building toward this entire video, and it did it for free, using nothing but earth and straw.
Here's the beautiful part. A modern root cellar is really just an improved walk-in version of that centuries-old pit. Same principle. Use the thermal mass of the earth to hold a cool, stable temperature no matter what the weather does above. You don't need to dig a pit in your yard to use this wisdom, although you absolutely can. You just need to apply the lesson. Find the spot in your home that behaves most like that underground clamp. Cool, stable, dark, a little humid. An unheated garage, a cool pantry, an insulated corner that doesn't swing with the weather. The closer you get to what the earth does naturally, the closer you get to a year of good potatoes. And to prove just how far these principles can take you, let me leave you with one fact that should genuinely change what you think is possible. The fact that proves a whole year is realistic. Potatoes destined for commercial French fries are routinely stored for 8 to 12 months. Not weeks, months and months, sometimes the better part of a year, and they come out ready to cook. And here's the thing to notice about how they do it. Those facilities don't just refrigerate potatoes and hope. They precisely manage every single factor we've talked about today. They regulate temperature, they regulate humidity, they control airflow, they manage carbon dioxide levels, they control sprouting. Look at that list again, because you already know every item on it now. Stable, cool temperatures, darkness, good airflow, proper humidity, starting with healthy, well-cured potatoes of a variety that keeps. That's the whole game. Those are the same principles, top to bottom. The commercial facilities just dial them in with more precision than you can at home. But that's the point. You don't need their precision to get most of their result. Your home setup won't be as exact, and it doesn't have to be. When you get these fundamentals even roughly right, you dramatically extend how long your potatoes last. You go from a few soft weeks to many solid months, and a full year stops being a fantasy and starts being a realistic target. So let's bring the whole picture into focus, because once you see how these pieces fit, storing potatoes stops feeling like luck and starts feeling like something you control. Your potatoes are alive, and they're breathing down their own lifespan every day, faster when it's warm and slower when it's cool. A lot of the rot you'll ever get was actually bruised in at harvest, so gentle hands matter more than you think. Cure your potatoes for those first 10 to 14 days, and they'll grow their own protective skin. Keep them cool, but never fridge cold, because too cold changes them forever, and they don't forget. Keep them in total darkness, because light does its damage days before you ever see green. Hold the humidity in that sweet spot of humid air but dry potatoes. Check for that one rotten potato before its gases take out the rest. Understand that sprouting is an internal clock you can slow but never fully stop. Choose a variety that was born to keep, and copy what the earth does naturally: cool, stable, dark, and steady. None of this needs money. None of it needs a special container or a fancy gadget. It needs understanding, and now you have it. Here's what I want you to take from all of this. You were probably never failing because you weren't trying hard enough. You were doing the work. You were missing the reasons. And now that you know the reasons, this next harvest doesn't have to end the way the last ones did. You can grow food and actually keep it all the way through to the day you need it.
That's not just gardening, that's a pantry you've filled yourself in the smallest space possible that holds through the winter. Before you go, do this for me. Tell me in the comments which one of these secrets you didn't know before today. Was it the cold memory thing, the invisible bruises, the curing step? I genuinely want to know which one surprised you most because it tells me what to make next. If this helped you see your potatoes in a completely new way, smash that like button. It truly helps this channel reach more growers like you. Subscribe if you're not already, because every video here is built to give you the real reasons behind what works, so you can stop guessing and start getting reliable results season after season. And if you want to go deeper with me, consider becoming a member of the channel. Members get closer access and support, the kind of in-depth, no-nonsense growing content you just watched, the stuff that actually respects your time and your intelligence. Tap that join button and come be part of it. Now, go check on your potatoes, and this time you'll know exactly what to look for.